Yeah, I just felt like we should get out.
In the front row, you would let people.
Hello? I don't think I've ever gotten applause for saying hello. Goodbye. See ya. All right, we're going to get started. Can you hear me? Yes. No?
Try again.
Hello? Okay. All right, we're going to get started. We have a big agenda tonight, and we have a big audience tonight. This may be our biggest number of people since last year's holiday party. Yes, let's hear it for yourselves. All right, well, I think we're all in a pretty good mood these days. We just had an amazing convention, which 1, 2, 3. Anybody else besides Scott, James, and Chris were there? Okay. Well, I will tell you, I wasn't there, and I am so angry with myself because when we were voting on delegates back in, 2 months earlier, I said, I don't want to go to Chicago in the summer. I'm not excited about Biden. I still love him, but I'm not excited. And then everything happened. And then between texting all night long with Chris Hansen, constantly back and forth, sending me pictures. Occasionally, James would respond and sending pictures. And James's husband, Julius, was sending out awesome pictures. So by the end of Thursday night, I was pretty damn happy, but pretty damn depressed that I didn't go. Maybe 4 years from now. If it's in Hawaii, I would do that. Anyway, all right, so let me get started with some announcements. And I have one thing, it's a kind of a question. A lot of you are closer to my age than Scott's age. The baby in the group. So, well, he's younger than you.
Yes.
James is going to be 50 this year. We're having a party. So I thought about this when I was driving from the office this afternoon to go home and then to run down here. So how many of you have heard of the song Stairway to Heaven? Okay, I figured most of you did, even if you were 20 years old. I grew up with that in high school. Okay, here's the question of the hour. What in the hell does that song mean? What is it about? No hands. Okay, well, I kind of figured that too, because as I got out of the car, the end of the song comes up. She's something, a stairway to heaven.
She's buying.
Yeah, she's buying a stairway to heaven.
Drugs, Mark.
What?
It's about drugs.
Yeah, well, back then, that was drugs, but no more. I'm old now. Anyway, I just thought this is the weirdest song, but I love this song. All right, so first of all, I want to thank the people that brought us food tonight. Where's Mike Lopez? And Kathy Wilson. Jessica Canali. Did I say it right? And Jared Bynum. And as I say every month, I do most of the desserts because I'm a dessert freak. All right, so one of the first questions is, we have a meeting next month on October 1st. I have nobody signed up to do food that night. So I'm going to pass around a sheet of paper. If you can help bring food on October 1st, please sign up. We do not have a meeting in November. We will have our wine and cheese annual party at Chris Hansen's house on November 13th, which is a Wednesday night. And then December is our holiday party in here, and we supply the food. So I don't need anybody signing up for November or December, just October. I would appreciate that. Second thing, as you hear every month, we need to raise money for our house district. We've been doing pretty well, especially compared to most of the house districts. So I'm going to pass around the bowl wherever, the bowl's over here. Thank you, Vanna. Vanna will have the bowl.
First check. Where's the seal?
So what I need you to do, if you are doing a credit card to donate, I need you to fill out one of these BREs. And I don't have very many of them. So if you're just doing cash or a check, just use a plain white envelope, put it in there, and write something in there so I know who it's from. Almost all of you that have donated over the years, I have all your info already. So unless you're new, I don't really need all that, but I will pass these around.
Thank you. Yep.
Oh, okay. I'll find it. I'll find it. No, it's fine. We'll keep it here.
Okay. Can't read my own writing. Oh, okay. So when Chris comes up to go over special session, he's also going to talk about the convention, which he was at. And I assume most of you watched it at night. I went to the convention in 2004. It wasn't nearly as good as this one. And I was helping with 2008 when it was here at Mile High Stadium for Obama. And while that was fun and I had a good time, watching this convention was so awesome. It's like everybody's been reborn in 1 month, and there was so much excitement. I will tell you this. I'm working back in the office pretty much every day again until the election. We are getting so many phone calls. How can I help? What can I do? Where do I get a yard sign? That's the number one call. We're working on that, and I did hear from the state party today that they've ordered a bunch of them. I think they're going to allocate some to the different House districts, some to the counties. We'll see.
Well, we got to order them.
Right.
As a county. Yeah,
okay, how many did we order?
400.
400? Wow, I'll take 100. I ordered them online. Where's Janine? Hiding behind everybody. I went to Janine's house and said, can you order me some shirts for Kamala and Walls? Can you order me yard signs? I'll pay you. I got everything except the yard sign, which I think is coming tomorrow, right? Okay. So I want to give you good news, beside of all the good news we've had. I live in Lowry, and my neighbor 3 doors from my house, I don't think has ever voted for a Democrat in her whole life. She tells me she is very Christian, very Republican, all of the above. When I went home yesterday, she grabbed me outside and she said, I got to show you something. I'm like, okay. She got a sign that says, Republicans for Harris and Walls. If she can do it, everybody else can do it. All right. How many people are coming to the dinner this Saturday, our annual dinner? Good showing. What? Luis Benitez. We've advertised that for about a month already. The dinner is sold out. There are no more tickets available. 6 o'clock tonight, we shut off the pay links. We have to give guaranteed numbers tomorrow morning to the hotel. So we're pretty excited. We think it'll be a great dinner. We have some great award winners for the 5 awards. I'm happy to say HD6 has 3 full tables. So good job. All right, my last thing, September 21st, 2 weeks from this Saturday, is the Fall Central Committee meeting for the Denver Democratic Party. It is in person this year. It's going to be at East High School. You will get the call through your email on September 11th. And if you're all POs, or most of you, you are required to be there. Otherwise, if you cannot be, you must get a proxy for somebody to vote for you. So mark that down, September 21st. We're going to be voting on which ballot issues to support, which ones to oppose, which ones no position. And I will tell you, being down at Denver elections last Friday, this ballot is so damn long, it's 8 pages. So we have a lot to vote on. All right, I think that's all I have. So I'm going to turn this over to Andrew. Before I do, Kathy.
Sorry.
Kathy Wilson is our 6B co-captain. Matt, that's sitting here playing with his headphones on. He's our co-captain at 6A. Karen is not here. She's the captain in 6B. She's either got COVID or she thinks she has COVID. So we said, please don't come. And then I'm your finance chair and your chair for 6. So Andrew's going to just briefly talk about the agenda tonight and talk about a couple other things. We have a really good presentation of people tonight. So we're glad you're here. Thank you very much. On with the show.
All right. That's loud.
How do I shut this on?
Hang on, give me a sec. Okay, is that better?
Oh, wait, one more thing. By the way, I forgot to introduce certain people. Everybody knows James Reyes, our chair, correct? Jared Bynum is our second vice chair. Where's Abe Call? Abe is our secretary. Who am I missing? Who?
Matthew, assistant secretary.
Oh, how could I forget Matthew? My favorite officer. Matthew Logan is our assistant secretary. And one other mention, Scott Mangino is the state party second vice chair, right? And he's also our tech captain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Fisher. I'm the House District 6A captain. Thank you all for coming tonight. If you saw our email reminders, we teased you with a presentation by Councilwoman Parity. She emailed me about 30 minutes ago letting me know she has a child care emergency, so she will not be here. But the rest of our program is on, and we have 2 speakers, our DA candidate, John Walsh, and some folks from 2 of the pro-animal ballot initiatives who are going to fill in for Councilwoman Parity for a couple minutes. But first, I'd like to welcome up here Sue Demore. Sue, where are you? Sue is with the Denver Library Foundation, in this capacity at least, and is going to be talking about renovations at the Schlesman family branch library.
Thanks, Andrew. I am actually a library champion, just a volunteer for the library, which I have been very supportive of. And actually, thanks, Sarah, for also being a library champion on City Council. So here's what's happening. In 2017, there was a bond where the Schlesman Library got $2.24 million. And there was a mistake. Thank you, Andrew, for pointing that out, for the renovation of the building. But then COVID came along and the costs went up, material costs went up, construction costs went up, and at this point, to do the full needed renovation, we would have to raise an additional $1.1 million. So my first task is, so we have 2.24 and we need 3.3, so that's the difference. And my first job is, why are we doing this? And the answer is that library was built in 2001. It has never been renovated. And as our entire area, Hilltop, Montclair, Mayfair, East Denver, all along up to Yosemite and Aurora, continues to grow, and the demands on the library are unbelievable. And you can see it from the parking lot because you can never find a parking space. We are the second busiest branch of 27 branches. And I know, it's unbelievable. They process over 400,000 items a year out of that library. And we see or interact with over 400 people a day. So we know that the children's library is too small, that the community room upstairs is hard to reach and too small for what needs to happen. There is needs for a new roof, there is needs for new technology, there's all kinds of general maintenance that needs to be done. And so what we've done is say, if you can help us, we're trying to fill the gap, and we're doing a pretty good job of doing it, actually. We have a real opportunity for money from the city that they said they would throw in some more money. We've gone to 2 foundations, and one of which, and we've held off, we believe will help us and is saying if you'll do a match. So if you get donors, we'll match whatever you get. And we have to have a decision pretty much by the end of the year because we have to go into design phase. And the chances, if we don't make our goal, the needs just are so great, we will probably not have another chance at a renovation that needs to meet these demands for years because there are 27 branches. They're about to open another branch, and everybody's in line waiting for their chance to do that. The amazing thing about the library is when the library opened, it was only one half of the collection was actual books. The rest were DVDs and CDs and all kinds of magazines. It was really great, and they scaled it to serve people like me who were getting ready to retire and planning travel, so they had a fabulous travel section. And then other people who were living in Lowry, and Lowry was just getting opened and expanding, so there were all kinds of gardening books and cooking books and children's books. And now, as the library has changed, the outstanding program, and I'll tell you one little story, the outstanding program is the Plaza program, which serves refugees and immigrants because there are so many people living in our House District area that are immigrants and refugees needing services. And so we are second in all the libraries, again, of everybody serving the refugees and immigrants. And you think of East Denver and you think most of the people look like the people in this room, and we are very wrong. The other thing is there are homeless people in every single branch of the library. And they may look like us, but they come to the library every day, and it is the only warm, safe place for them to get the services they need and to be safe. My little story, a few years back, I went to the library on tax day, and it was just about to close, and there was a couple in traditional African dress standing at the library computer with a librarian, and she was doing their taxes with them. And I thought, this is a different library that I came to the opening for in 2002. So our ask is, I've got on the table, there's all kinds of facts, and I know everybody, especially in this election season, please give to this candidate, please give to another candidate. So I put a little green sheet there. You can make a pledge, and you don't have to give this year, and you can give just in the next year or so, as long as it can be counted. But we would love to have your support. And it's a wonderful library, and it's the People's University for all the little kids who are going to get an expanded and better children's section. There's another program that Schlesman started too, which is called Memory Cafe. And if your parent or a close friend has Alzheimer's and you're the primary caregiver, you can take them to Schlesman one day a week. They have a program for an hour to an hour and a half. It costs nothing, and it gives you as the caregiver a chance for a break and gives stimulation and caring and a social network for the person who is suffering from Alzheimer's. And those are the kinds of programs we often offer. And my one thought is the library has amazing programs, and they're terrible at selling them. So that's why I'm here, not only asking for your support, but to really understand the value of a library as a core element of who we are as a city and a community. So any questions? We'd love to have you as our supporters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Next, please welcome our district attorney candidate, John Walsh.
So it's great to be here at HD6. As I think you all know, I've been here multiple times, and also Windsor Gardens. And I wanted really not to give a speech about what's going on in public safety right now, but really just to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who supported me in the race and got me across the finish line. I have no Republican opposition in November, which is a good start. In fact, no opposition at all. So, and that ballot will get certified on Monday. But I also, and this I think is a really important thing to say, I want to thank everyone who supported my opponent in this race as well. She was highly qualified, good person, cared about the city, cared about the issues that we are collectively facing. And I think this is a moment in which the Democratic Party and the people of Denver and the people of the country should be coming together. So I look forward to continuing the friendship that I started with Leora in the course of this race. And I just wanted to emphasize that too, because I know there are plenty of people in this room who are also Leora supporters. And we are, I think, one party and one Denver and one Colorado and ultimately one United States, even though it doesn't feel that way always. And so I have no other point to come here tonight with than to tell you thank you to everyone, and I look forward to working with you on behalf of the people of this city in the years to come. So have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon.
Any questions for John as he heads out? Going once, going twice? Okay, off the hook. Next, I'd like to welcome two representatives of the Pro Animal Future Group, Lauren and Olivia. You're going to see two initiatives on that 8-page ballot that Mark mentioned earlier related to animal welfare. The first is to ban fur sales, at least new fur products in Denver city limits. And the second is to ban the operation of slaughterhouses in Denver city limits, but it only affects one slaughterhouse that's currently active in Denver city limits. So please welcome Lauren and Olivia.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. We're super excited to talk to you all. Lauren and I are with a group called Pro Animal Future. As mentioned, we have two ballot measures that will appear on the Denver ballot this November. So the fur ban and the slaughterhouse ban. Our organization is just a small grassroots group. We are local to Denver. You may have seen us out at, farmers markets and local events last year, collecting signatures. There were, we have a small team, but we're primarily powered by volunteers, people who are really passionate about pro-animal issues. So we had about 130 volunteers out last year. We were out gathering signatures, and so we have qualified these measures for the ballot. So they're citizen-led, and it's exciting that we now get to vote on them as citizens and sort of get to do our best to cut out corporate interests and really kind of make a decision as citizens on what we feel is right and what type of future we'd like to see. So our measures are really targeted towards factory farming. I think as our sort of collective consciousness has grown, we can really start to recognize that there's a lot of harms and problems associated with factory farming, not just with the treatment of animals, but with the environmental impact. We're seeing active, repercussions from climate change here in Colorado. I think, these issues affect all of us. And what's really exciting about these types of measures is that we're not asking anyone to make, a personal change and, you have to change your behavior. What we're asking is for people to kind of recognize the need for systemic change and to kind of head in that direction together and say, hey, this is, something we recognize is right. And this is the direction we want to head in together as voters. So we're really excited to, have this in front of Denver citizens this fall. And Lauren's going to talk a little bit more about the measures as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Olivia. And thanks again so much for having us speak. We came here expecting to network and really just kind of get more involved in the community and get more people excited about these initiatives. We were not expecting to speak tonight, so it's really exciting to have that opportunity. But yeah, I would like maybe if we can do just a quick show of hands of people in the room of maybe have you heard the term factory farming before? Is it a concept that you're familiar with? Raise of hands if that's true for you. Okay, cool. I think really over the last 50, 60 years, we've really seen a move away from kind of these small farms and toward a very industrialized form of animal production. And really, this is something that so many Denver voters, when we speak to them, say, yeah, I eat meat And also I feel this really deep conflict. I know that factory farming is bad for the environment. I know that it's bad for the animals. I know that it's bad for the workers inside of these facilities. And so really what we're trying to do is give people an avenue to actually create political change on this, take power away from these corporations that have so much money and influence over our decisions, and really allow us to actually make choices that align best with our values. I think that there's really a big thing in Denver where most of us enjoy the outdoors. Most of us enjoy being out in the beautiful landscapes that we have available to us. And I think really that what's aligned most with our values is protecting animals and protecting the environment. And so really this is just a way for us to start here locally in the community that we live in, to say we don't want factory farms to operate here. We don't want this facility that operates in Denver that kills 1,500 lambs a day that are trucked in from all over the country. It's basically most farms west of Iowa is sending lambs to this facility here in Denver to be killed and then being shipped out all across the country and internationally as well. So this is really a big industrial operation, and we're trying to say, hey, we all agree that this is not how we want our world to be existing. And so really this is just a way for us to start taking these steps away from factory farming, and to start putting power back in the people's hands to make those decisions about what happens within our communities. So again, I really appreciate your support. Our big ask here is definitely to check out the information that we have back on the table back there. We're definitely very open to any questions that people have. I really think also, I guess just another point to address, the opposition campaign is on track to spend over $1 million fighting this to keep the slaughterhouse here in Denver. And so really what we have are people on the ground doing this work. Their main argument is essentially that we should not make this change because of the jobs that it's going to impact. And I just want to be really clear here that Olivia and I and the rest of our volunteers, the rest of our organization care deeply about that as well, and really believe that we can create just transitions for workers to move into other jobs, for the city to prioritize them in workforce training and employment assistance programs, and to allow them to do jobs that are better for our community instead of polluting the water, harming workers, and harming animals. So I would love to answer any questions, and then as well, if people want to email any questions that we don't get to, I can also provide my email to anyone as well.
We start with Sue, CL.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Number one, who runs that plant? And then what happens when that shuts down? Are you saying that small people like up in here, Evans, and that are doing processing of animals are going to take that work over? Are you trying to halt the out-of-state shipments coming in, and how are you going to do that? And where do you have the money to, or what kinds of jobs are you expecting that these people will be training? Is the city willing to step up and provide that?
Definitely, yeah, those are all really good questions. Yeah. So to address some of those, I think first was maybe like what would happen to...
Who owns that?
Oh, gotcha, yeah, thank you. The first one is that it's Superior Farms. It's the largest lamb producer in the country. So this plant here in Denver processes about 20% of the country's lamb capacity. And so they are based in Dixon, California. They are really making these claims at this stage that they're a small local business. They have operated in Denver for 70 years, but again, they're a corporation with multiple locations headquartered in California. And so that's kind of the first part of it. I know the second part was about what would happen to the...
If it's shut down, what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal for us really would be that this is the first step toward a potential statewide factory farming ban. So really the goal for us is to use these local initiatives where we live to start building the power, having these conversations with voters, and potentially being able to scale up to a statewide factory farming ban. I think really what I picture happening here is that I think that as our society changes, as we take power out of these industries, there are a lot of people that I have talked to personally in Denver who are very on board with the idea that we need to be changing how we're eating, but that can happen as we change the systems. So, you want to add anything?
Next question is going to be from CL back here.
Who's your city council person?
Flor Alvidras.
Okay. Have you talked to her?
Yes, so we have actually tried, we have reached out to all city council members, so we're actively trying to meet with every single one of them. We have already met with...
Did you meet with them before you passed petitions?
So the requirement for the passing of the petitions is just submitting the ballot.
No, I understand the process of doing petitions. I'm asking, why did you pursue the petition route rather than representative government route, city council, state legislature?
Yeah, absolutely. So we feel really strongly about citizen-led ballot measures because it really helps feel like we are all participating in this as voters. So this is something we all have a choice in. And so rather than having it feel like there is a legislator making this decision for all of us, we want to make sure citizens are kind of all participating in the vote. It's also giving us the opportunity for outreach, so direct voter outreach. We are out talking to voters, answering questions, just kind of getting people thinking about these topics. And just those conversations, I think, are really valuable for a topic like this, just to kind of hear where people are at and make sure all of those questions are being addressed.
Well, I'm largely a vegetarian, but I still believe in representative government. Thank you.
I'm going to give, I know there are a lot of hands here, but I'm going to give last question because we do need to move on to Senator Hudson. If you wouldn't mind sticking around, I'm sure people would like to talk to you afterwards.
I'm a pro-choice voter, and it seems to me that you are trying to deny the right of a business to exist in Denver. And one of the things we try to do is attract businesses. It looks like, now I understand that most of the people who work at that land facility are migrants. Why are you trying to put these people out of business? I mean, it seems to me at the height of interference with other people's livelihood, what you're trying to do.
I think that one part, and I'll let Olivia add to this if she would like as well, but I think that really what I believe here is that economists have described this thing called the vote buy gap, so as a society, I think there's a lot of changes that even though people are buying it, even though there's a demand for it, we actually feel like we don't have a choice. We actually feel like the options given to us aren't the ones that align most with what our values are. And really, there's not a way for that to be heard by these corporations. So there's people who live in Globeville who are forced to live near a slaughterhouse, who would not like to. There are people who work in slaughterhouses who really, because there are not other good jobs available to them, that's where they end up. But I think that as a society, we can be creating new jobs, creating ways that we can help our community again instead of harming it. Do you want to?
Yeah, just one point I had wanted to make in terms of jobs, just because that's something that's really important to us as well, is not putting folks out of work. So I just want to point out that the Colorado Chamber of Commerce has classified our labor shortage here in Colorado as severe. So there are about 52 workers for every 100 available jobs. And when kind of looking at the job boards, these were across many different skill levels. And these are, a lot of them, very essential jobs that we need to fill. We also want to make it clear we're not trying to target any one business or any one industry. This is just kind of one small step in what we see as a broader scale change. And the citizen-led measure is also just because it gives us an opportunity to really kind of get out there and talk about this intention of just kind of broader scale change instead of, oh, we're just trying to close down this one particular business. So just making sure we have that opportunity to have those deeper conversations with folks.
All right, thank you, everybody. Please give Lauren and Olivia a round of applause. If you have further questions,
Thank you so much.
All right, next up is Senator Chris Hansen, who's going to talk a little bit about the special session and, I don't know if this is still on your list, but HB 24-1349, an excise tax on firearms.
All right. Hello, everybody. As Monty Python would say, now for something entirely different. Property tax. It's great to see everyone. We finished a very special session recently. And I wanted to give a little bit, as I try every month here at HD6, a little bit of like what actually happened, as opposed to the very cursory journalistic treatment that we get in what is left of the local press here in the state of Colorado. Many of those reporters did not even bother to come to the Capitol, but decided to write what I consider lacking pieces in the news media. So let me try to give you a sense of what happened in the room where it happened, to quote one of my favorite musicals. I was pleased to be in that room on your behalf, and I am grateful to be able to do this work on your behalf. This is a story that really starts in 1982, when the voters of the state of Colorado decided to adopt the Gallagher Amendment. Now, I have such respect for former Senator Gallagher. I had the displeasure of debating him on the repeal on several occasions. Respect him deeply and was at his funeral. I think he was an amazing public servant. We disagreed on this one item. We agreed on lots of other things. The Gallagher Amendment was repealed with your vote in 2020. And the reason we repealed it was because it was not working for the state of Colorado. It was destroying public school funding, leading to huge shortfalls in our ability to fund things like hospitals and higher ed and transit and mental health care and lots of things we care deeply about because of what Gallagher was forcing because of the formula in the Constitution. So we decided to take that out. Now, we always knew that if the voters said yes to Gallagher repeal, that would mean more work on creating a stable framework for property tax going forward. And we started on that work immediately, myself and Senator Bob Rankin from Carbondale. Bipartisan effort to repeal Gallagher and a bipartisan effort to then replace it with a stable framework. We worked on that in 2020, in 2021 session, again in 22, again in 23. And we're unable to find a broad compromise for a number of different reasons, from political interests on the left, political interests in the center, and on the right prevented us from moving forward with a long-term bill. So we passed short-term measures. We got the best that we could. As is often said, politics is the art of the possible. And that's what we did. But fast forward to post-pandemic, when assessed values rose quickly in the state of Colorado, for a bunch of reasons you're all familiar with. Lots of out-of-state money coming to Colorado because they wanted a place in the mountains. That had a big effect on property prices all throughout the state. And so, again, earnestly back to work in 23 with the Property Tax Commission into the 24 session, and eventually passed Senate Bill 233, which I was pleased to share with you those results back in our May and June meetings. But Initiatives 50 and 108 were still on the ballot. I am pleased to report, as of tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., they will be off the ballot. And that is a great victory for the state of Colorado, and particularly for our kids in public school, including the 2 that I send to public school. That's a big, big deal. We have won this fight for sustainable, long-term framework for public school finance. This has been a decade-long fight. And we have finally untied the Gordian knot of Gallagher and Tabor. We've finally done it. And I was sitting in this room with you in 2014, listening to my predecessor, Senator Court, describe the exact problem. And it took us 10 years. 10 years. And we are finally here, and we need to celebrate this victory for our kids and for the services in the state. That is not what you heard in the media. What you heard in the media was junk like, oh, this was a behind closed doors process. This was some sort of hidden backdoor negotiation, backroom negotiation, as if I smoke cigars. We did this bill like we do almost every bill which is a relatively small group of 4 or 5 people get together and come up with a first draft. Then we talk to hundreds of stakeholders. Then we have a public meeting for feedback. We did that twice with the Property Tax Commission. We then have a bill draft that gets published on the legislative website. And any citizen can come and comment on that bill draft. And that's exactly what we did in this process. So I ask you to ignore that false narrative. I ask you to ignore that junk from reporters who didn't even bother to come to the Capitol to figure out what was going on. The second thing I want to address is this idea that this was somehow a hostage situation. Now, do I agree with the proponents of 50 and 108? I think everyone knows where I stand. Those were terrible ballot initiatives. I spent most of July and August going around the state making sure that people knew how bad those ballot initiatives were going to be for the state. But is putting something on the ballot by right-wing donors new in this state of Colorado? Unfortunately not. That's how we got Tabor in the first place. And so what we did is we came back and negotiated hard for House Bill 1001 to make sure that it didn't have a negative effect on the things we care about in this room. K-12 funding, higher ed, Medicare, Medicaid, mental health care across the state, roads, bridges, infrastructure. And we were successful. 1001 does next to nothing. The new provisions in it are a small extension to the bipartisan compromise that we passed in the regular session. And in exchange for doing almost nothing, we got rid of 50 and 108 and got a commitment from those same right-wing donors that they would not be back with new ballot initiatives for at least the next 6 years. That is a huge win for the state of Colorado. And so I felt it was important tonight to share with my home base, HD6, what actually happened in the room, in public, in the legislature, and the net effect for our kids and for our state. I'm going to move on to my second topic tonight. I was asked to talk about another bill that I sponsored, which is to put an excise tax on firearms and ammunition onto the ballot. That's going to be on your November ballot. You're going to see it in your blue book. I urge your support for this ballot initiative. It's a 6.5% excise tax on new firearm sales and ammunition sales. It will be levied on the manufacturers of these products. It will raise $39 million estimated for next year. Where does that money go? Most of that money is going to be spent on crime victim services. Because of Tabor, we have drastically underfunded those services. We had a 2-year reprieve because of federal money in the wake of COVID. That has now expired. We are going to now again be facing a massive shortfall in funding for crime victim services. The second thing that it funds is mental health care, particularly for veterans and youth. So a big chunk of that new excise tax will go to those badly needed services. And finally, we've set aside some of the money for school safety programs and improving safety at our school buildings around the state. Those are great things to improve public safety, all 3 of those areas. And this is a very small ask of the folks who purchase firearms and ammunition. And it's exactly what we do in lots of other areas. If anybody in the room has ever purchased marijuana, not to say anyone in this room might want to purchase marijuana, but if you did, you're paying an excise tax that helps us to fund public safety programs and treatment programs. That's exactly the concept that we're bringing to this ballot initiative. And so I ask for your support of that. I'm going to end and so much welcome your questions and reflections on this important moment in our history as a state, but want to end on a big up note. Because I had the great opportunity to be in Chicago for the DNC. And let me tell you, it was electric. And my favorite story was there on Monday night, and our nominee for president walks out unannounced for a quick cameo, and the place went bananas. And do you guys remember what she was wearing? Her tan suit. Do you remember the junk that was thrown at President Obama for wearing a tan suit in the middle of summer in D.C.? That's why she wore that suit. But wait, the story gets even better. Guess what I was wearing that night? A tan suit. So I quickly got my camera out and took a selfie of myself in my tan suit. Kamala was about this big, but you could just tell she was wearing her tan suit. It was amazing to be there. James was there as representing the Denver delegation. Can you think of another time in American history where one party was down 5 points and comes out a month later up 5 in national polls? We have re-energized this race. We are going to win this race. I have no doubt coming out of Chicago that the energy and the passion is there. It's time for all of us in this room to do our part. My wife and I recently started hosting one of the Harris campaign staff members in the state from now till November. We love having her in our home. Sophia is teaching our kids a lot about civics in the process. It's a great trade. 2 other events I want to tell you about. We also need to win some important state Senate races in November to make sure we protect these majorities that we have in the state Senate and keep doing the work that I've just described to you. I'm going to be hosting an event on September 17th at my house. Lots of co-hosts in the room already signed up. Love for you to join in. We're going to be raising money for the 2 biggest, toughest swing seats in the state, one in El Paso County with Mark Snyder running in El Paso County to take a Republican seat that we have not held since at least the Gallagher Amendment was passed. And the second one is Kohlberger, who's running in the Glenwood Springs and Carbondale area. That is a seat that we have not held in a very, very long time. This is our chance to pick up 2 really important seats. I would love your help to do that. September 17th, 5:30 at my house. The second one, arguably even more exciting from a national standpoint, is we've got the congressional district race in the country in CD8. This is it, folks. This is the edge of the blade, as they say. This is the swing seat for the country, is in Adams County. And my friend Yadira Caraveo, who I used to serve with in the House. She's going to be coming to my place on October 1st. We're doing a big fundraiser for her, and we have a special guest. Congressman Jamie Raskin is going to be in town for that event. Would love to have you there. I'll make sure folks get a chance to RSVP if you're interested. We are going to do as much as we can to help her raise money, as much as we can to help her raise the volunteers and the letter writers and the door knockers that she needs to win in Adams County. We have to win that race if we're going to take back Congress. Love your help with both of those. Thank you again for letting me serve you at the Capitol, and I look forward to any questions you might have.
Yep. Here, actually, I'll roving mic.
Roving mic.
So I know that you have some feelings about the backroom deal characterization. A couple things. I did listen to the Property Tax Commission, the Friday session, and many of the folks in the room were trying to understand what the heck was in the deal that happened behind closed doors. And so I think there is something to the fact of not knowing fully what's in the bill. So it's not all junk. Some of us were trying to follow it closely and couldn't because there were decisions being made out of public view. Second, last year the legislature passed, I think it was last year, it was this year, passed a bill reducing transparency for open meetings laws that was used to block media from Senate and House Democratic meetings, caucus meetings. Again, feels a bit like backroom deals. So not saying that it was all done in the dark, but it's not all junk, and I think it's fair to tell those things. Second, you said...
Do I get a chance to respond to that, or do you have or is there a question?
There's a second question, but you can respond to that part.
Well, so the meetings that you're referring to were meetings that we had, and again, I'm in the Democratic caucus, so I'm in that meeting. We got together to talk about the logistics for the special session. And that is not a public decision-making body. We were talking about when we're going to start, what the schedule is going to be for the special session. If we had a caucus meeting that was discussing a bill draft, that is an open meeting. So I want to make sure everybody in the room understands the difference between those types of meetings. And that's exactly what is clear in the definition of open meeting, and we follow that to the letter of the law.
That is the change now that logistics are excluded. That was the change that was passed, that the legislature passed, excluding that from open meetings. So then the second part, you said next to nothing, 80 million, somewhere upwards of 80 million in 26 and 90 plus million in 27.
that is needed to backfill because of the lesser property tax. That's
Right,
not
but-
nothing.
Well, $80 million is not nothing, but put it in the context of $10 billion. It's a very small percent. And you have to take into account the change in assessed value in the state more than covers the change in assessment rates that we made in the bill. That is why I'm referring to it as a bill with very little practical impact because of those two factors.
So I think, as you know, and some folks, I grew up in California, and the thing that affected policy and schools and everything more than anything else in California was Prop 13, which is basically our far more draconian version of what was on the ballot here. In 2016, there was a ballot measure to repeal the corporate side of that. And even in California, and even in a presidential election year, it failed. Voters wanted to keep it. So I say all that because I know firsthand how painful it is to watch it be impossible to raise more money for schools, to raise more money, and the risk that we had as a state of this passing and never, ever being able to get rid of it. Obviously, I'd love to keep the money. I'm a progressive. It'd be great to have more money for schools. But I guess what I think I said this to you, to me, it seems like this was one of the hardest moments for the legislature in terms of making this call. And, I guess my question is just, for you, how did that fit into all of the sorts of choices you've had to make here? Because they were ransoming. They did have a gun to our heads in some ways.
Well, I have a slightly different take on it, which is if they had had a real campaign and could have passed 50 and 108 with a bunch of support, you could look at that as more of a hostage situation. I guess what I'm describing is 50 and 108 campaigns that were floundering. They were not fundraising. They had a very small set of very rich right-wing donors, was their only support base, and they were looking for a way to try to make a deal. And what I am sharing with you tonight is I think we drove a very hard bargain, and we passed something in special session that got rid of 50, which you're exactly right, is like Prop 13. Why is Prop 13 such a disaster? Well, if you own a $40 million mansion in Malibu, you're being taxed like it's $1.5 million. Right, that's what that leads to, and Initiative 50 would have led to that same result in the state of Colorado, deeply regressive in its approach to property tax. And we also got rid of 108, and we got a commitment to make sure that we don't have any of these things come back for the next 6 years. So I'm sharing with you tonight my feeling that this is a moment for us to celebrate a victory, because I think that's exactly what it is, and this has been a 10-year struggle to make sure that we have sustainable funding, in particular for K-12, and we have won that struggle with this bill.
And thank you for it.
It's not a question, but I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware that the executive committee of the county voted in support of the firearms excise tax at our last executive committee.
Thanks, Jan. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you, everyone. It is great to be with you tonight. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
All right, I'd now like to introduce our soon-to-be representative, Sean Camacho, to talk about some events happening in Representative Caravello's district, slightly north of here.
Good evening, HD6. How's everyone doing? So it is always an honor to speak right at the end of the meeting when everyone has had enough speeches, but I will gladly take this time spot because I realize that this is the first opportunity I have had to address our entire House district since the primary. We took July off for the picnic. I unfortunately couldn't be with you in August because I was preparing for a month-long trial that I've been working on for 2 years. And I couldn't be here. So this is the first opportunity I am able to come before you as your Democratic nominee this November. And much like John Walsh, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It is so incredibly humbling to be vested with the responsibility and purely the honor to be able to have the opportunity to represent everyone in this room, from the activists to our neighbors. It is, and I'm sure it will be, one of the honors of my life, and I am so grateful for that. So thank you. I also want to recognize something else, and I said this at the HD6 picnic, but I think it's important to reiterate again. It was a very tough primary, and there are many people in this district that support me, and there are many people that didn't. There are people that supported our representative, Elizabeth Epps. And if you've heard me at any time over the last few years, when I was captain of this House district, it's one thing I've always said: public service is incredibly hard. The sacrifice, the time, the effort, the agony in some senses that our elected officials go through to represent us deserves our respect. And I give my hat off to Elizabeth for taking on that mantle. I want to thank her for that. She's not here tonight, but I think it's important that we all recognize that needs to be said. I greatly respect Elizabeth for that, and I'm so thankful that she gave part of her life to help represent us. So to those of you who didn't vote for me, I want to have a special message for you. I will be your representative too. I will be someone who will fight that fight for you, who you can have honest and tough conversations with, because that's what we all deserve. That's why we're Democrats. That's why we organize. That's why we get out the vote, and that's why we win. All right. So what have I been doing since the primary is over? And I told you this when I was campaigning. If you are the representative from this seat, you have an obligation to go out and help Democrats all across the state win elections. So I've been living that value. I've been in Colorado Springs. I'm going to be in Durango. I'm going to be in Steamboat Springs, running and helping Democrats. And I'm going to help my friend Mark Snyder, who's running for my hometown in Colorado Springs, get elected so we can have super majorities in both the Senate and the House, because that's what we need to do to win. So we have some folks here that I'll get to you in just a second. But there's also one other thing I'd like to talk about, and that is ballot measures. I feel like this is a theme for tonight. You got to talk about your ballot measure. You got to talk about your thing that's on the ballot. And before I go, I would like to give two disclaimers. One, I was a member of the Community Planning and Action Committee for Denver Public Schools. What does that mean? I spent the last 5 months, from January to essentially June, going to community meetings, talking about how to form this bond measure that will be going before the citizens of Denver in November. Now, this will be one of 3 asks for money. There'll be the DPS ask, there'll be the Denver Health ask, and there'll be Mayor Johnson's ask for affordable housing. That's a lot of asks. So, with that disclosure, I also have one other one. I have 2 kids in Denver Public Schools, so I do have a vested interest that we all pass this measure. But why is the Denver Public School bond important? DPS is $2.4 billion underfunded as is. This bond measure is $975 million. So you think, well, this is clearly a tax increase. This is not a tax increase. What this is voter and citizen authorization for DPS to extend their debt through a bond. There's no tax increase. It's just saying, DPS, you can have more debt for longer and pay for it. So what is that money going to? Well, it's going to air conditioning. Yep. And it's going to critical maintenance. Like I mentioned, DPS is $2.4 billion underfunded. It's going to critical maintenance. There are classrooms in this city where the roof leaks every time it rains, and they have to cancel class for the afternoon. Or the basement leaks and it becomes a health issue. These are the things that are being covered in this bond, in addition to the pursuit of passions. So what does that mean? Well, I can tell you that not every student at DPS is going to be a professional athlete. There are some folks that don't want to be athletes at all. There are folks that want to pursue the arts, and they need and deserve facilities that let them exercise that creative muscle. So the DPS bond renovates arts and culture, and it provides ability for kids to pursue their passions, in addition to creating innovation centers that will help prepare our kids for the economy they are going to enter. So help them get the jobs that will help them get into the middle class. That is what you are funding with this bond. And now that $975 million, about $34 million are going to go to specific projects here in House District 6. So I love for your support on that. Again, it's not a tax increase. You're just giving an authorization for them to continue and expand or continue their debt for more years. So, yeah.
There's also a bunch of money in there for school safety.
Oh, that's right. School safety is in there. So vestibule. So when you think about, unfortunately, we have to think about this, active shooter events at schools. They are security vestibules that go out in the front entrance of a school. So it's that little button you have to press to get access. You go into a secure space. They check, make sure you're good, and then you can go again. It's another barrier for school safety, and there's all kinds of other things in there in that $975 million. In addition to taking grass off of some of the fields and replacing with turf to reduce our environmental impact. Okay, so pivoting to another topic of why I was actually here to discuss, and that is getting out the vote for Democrats. As Senator Hanson mentioned, he is on the fundraising side for helping in Congressional District 8. That's Congresswoman Caraveo. I am going to be canvassing this Saturday in CD8 to help Congresswoman Caraveo win that seat. And I have an ask. I would like anybody in this room who is willing to help on Saturday to come with me. But there is a small little training you got to do. And my friend Pat Blumenthal, who is with the Horizon Project, is here to explain what we are going to be doing on Saturday. Is Pat?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is actually my district, so it's great to be here. I'm also here with Shannon, who's part of the team. I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. You've heard about fundraising. You've heard about voting. Now we're going to talk about what we actually do to get out the vote. Since the Horizon Deep Canvassing Project in Congressional District 8 is a project that was started with the support of Attorney General Phil Weiser. It's based in the Colorado Democratic Party. We have been out canvassing in the congressional district since March. We are using a technique of canvassing that is the most effective way to ensure that people who would not normally vote will vote. Okay, this is not leaving lit at a door and just hoping nobody answers the door. Okay? How many people like it when nobody answers the door, right? We are training people, and this methodology came out of California, it came out of the LGBTQ community, to do empathetic listening and story sharing that pulls people out and helps people think about the people in their lives they actually want to vote for. We have now had over 1,000 conversations. Representative Caraveo won last time by a margin of 1,600 votes. These are real conversations we've had, and we've left literature, but the real work we've been doing is conversations. How many days are there till ballots drop, Shannon?
38.
38 days till ballots drop. Between now and then, we are canvassing every Saturday in Adams County. Come October, we will do it both days of the weekend. To learn to do deep canvassing, we ask you to actually learn some skills. So we have what we call a nuts and bolts of a deep canvassing conversation. It's an hour-and-a-half session online that we do every Wednesday night from 6 to 7:30, and we accommodate people who can't make that. Then a canvas day is from 10 till 3. We start with some more skills. People go out and canvass. People come back and debrief. We have people now that have gone out 10 or 15 times because they find this so meaningful and so rewarding, and they know they're making a difference. We actually measure the shift in people's voting while we're standing at the doors. We have postcards that have our email on it. We have a sign-up sheet there. If in fact you want to come Saturday, please stop and talk to Shannon, because we do have to get you trained ahead of time. And if you can't make it Saturday, you have 2 months to come out canvassing with us. This is the hottest congressional race in the country. And it is not a gimme. So if you're concerned and you want to do something, this is the district closest to Denver where your willingness to walk and talk with folks will make a gigantic difference. So I don't know if there's time for questions or not.
Yes. comments, any questions?
Is there, and again, we'll be happy to be at the table.
Hold on, let me run you a microphone.
Hi, yeah. I'm Danny. I grew up in Grand Junction, and I was just back there and talking to some of these people about the race that are going on. And one of the things that they kept bringing up was not having a lot of faith in the legislature itself. There are a lot of articles coming out about very toxic situations in the Colorado legislature. I think a lot of people are resigning. We see, they were recently talking about the situation with Stephen Woodrow getting out of a ticket. There's, I would say on the Western Slope, not a lot of faith in the legislature. And like, hey, Sean, from one brown dude to another, you got to take care of yourself out there, because the stuff that I'm seeing happen there would make my HR department combust. But my question, I would say, are you, as part of these programs, trying to increase faith in legislators in these more rural areas?
Well, thank you for your question. The experiment that the Colorado Democratic Party agreed to this year is totally focused in Congressional District 8. We have been training people from across the state. What makes this really different is we're not having conversations about legislators. This is about, we're going to people who did not vote in 22. And the conversation, we do this all the time in the training. Everybody has a habit that they want to break, right? Everybody in the room has a habit. Do you change your habit because somebody told you to change your habit? Not a one of us. People have a habit of not voting. We are training our canvassers to learn to listen, be empathetic, and look for a connection with another human being that allows that person to go, I actually do want to vote. And I'm just going to give one example from last summer of what happened when we did this pilot. And actually, Phil Weiser was with me. We went up to the house of an individual in CD8. My guess is he was late 20s, 30s Latino. I shared a story with this person about the impact my mother had had on my life, giving me choices that she had not had growing up. We've been on his doorstep for less than 10 minutes. When I shared my story, he then suddenly said, he didn't know me, remember this, okay? That he was gay, that he had been scared to death to come out to his parents 10 years before, who were immigrants from Mexico. He came out and they embraced him. And as this conversation continued, he went from earlier saying he had no interest in voting to saying he started making the connection that maybe he did want to vote. Maybe for the things he cared about, he wanted to vote. We are looking to help people change their own minds. As a psychiatrist said to me, this is called motivational interviewing. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what issues to care about. I am opening the door for you to, I'm going to be vulnerable first and talk about people who made a difference in my life and invite you to do the same. And all I can tell you now is we've got some canvassers who've gone out 15 times. And you know that's not typical. And they keep having conversations with folks who are shifting their thinking because we're showing that we care.
Further questions? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the Horizon Project. Since the beginning of July, I have walked every weekend, more or less last weekend, for Yadiro. I want you to know the other one, you go to Yadiro's headquarters. It's just up right there at 104th. Every Saturday and every Sunday, 10 o'clock to 12, 12 to 2. So I go on Sunday mornings from 10, it's about 10 to 12:30. They train you. Many of you've done minivan? Yeah, so you get minivan, you get a map, and they train you before. So I appreciate, we do a lot of what you're saying, but this is working directly with Yadira's campaign. And not this weekend, the weekend before when I was out on Sunday, they hit 2,000 doors on Saturday. So it's tremendous enthusiasm.
But when you said she won by 1,600 votes, what you have to understand is CD8 was set up 2 years ago. And this is the first 2 years she's been in it. A bipartisan commission set it up, a third Republican, a third Democrat, and a third unaffiliated. There were approximately 225,000 votes, of which she won by 1,600. So when we go door to door, it's all unaffiliated. Very few Ds. But the people, you know, like, okay, 75% are at home. But you leave, you know, the information. But it's absolutely wonderful to go to that. And I think we all can. It's very easy. We worked with
You worked with them.
We
Yeah.
work with the campaign. We encourage people to canvass one way or the other. Some people prefer traditional canvassing. Some people prefer deep canvassing. The point is, do it. Right now, people need to be out there on the streets doing this work.
All right, final question of the evening. Going once, going twice. No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, Sean, back to you.
Hey, Pat, you forgot to tell people how they can sign up for Saturday.
We have a sign-up sheet right there. So if you think you're interested in this weekend or any other weekend, just stop there. You'll get on our email list, and we send out weekly emails with information. Thank you very much, and thank you.
One quick announcement.
And I don't need a mic. I have a voice. So, hi, my name is Kelly, and I'm used to be with HD-ish 3. Now that the districts have changed, I'm not exactly sure what my old neighborhood was. And now I'm here in HD6. My friend Natalie Moser-Wren and I are hosting an event on 9/22 from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's a backyard house party in the flavor of Cat Ladies for Kamala. Zara Misdemeanor and the Denver Dolls will be performing. We are going to have a couple of great guest speakers. We are going to talk about ballot initiatives. It's going to be one day after the Denver Dems decide what their ballot initiative strengths, weaknesses, all of that kind of thing is. So that would be great new information. And it's going to be fun so that we can have, you know, a little bit of like a champagne brunchy and a little, you know, saltiness, so that we can pump ourselves up to get out the vote. So if you're at all interested and want to be on my email list, I would love to have your email list. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, great. A couple of final announcements. First, I wanted to recognize James Reyes for being elected to the Democratic National Committee. And second, if you have any additional donations, please bring those up to the front, as well as if you have the food sign-up sheet, please bring that up to the front as well. And I've been told to tell everybody to use Slack. So if you're not on Slack, please get on Slack and communicate there. Thank you.
Please help us put away the tables and chairs if you're able. Thanks.